Hello and welcome back to Auspol Explained. My name is David and today I am going to become the human equivalent of a dictionary. This video is all about explaining political terms and phrases and what they mean. As much as I love 20-minute deep dives into some specific particular element of politics, sometimes, you just need to know what the words actually mean. So this video will be really helpful, not just for the rest of my channel, but for helping you understand the news. So let's start defining some terms, if you know what I mean. Because, meaning is derived from understanding words. It's a very bad joke that I just made. Anyway, question time. This one is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's a time when politicians can ask ministers questions, where they are obliged to answer. Obliged isn't the same as actually doing it, but generally this happens around 2 to 3 p.m. and the party asking the questions alternates throughout the time. There is a 30-second time limit for questions and a 4-minute time limit for answers. Caucus. A caucus is a meeting of parliamentary members of a political party. Caucus is often used in reference to the Australian Labor Party when the senators and members meet together, though it can apply to all parties. The Liberal and Labor Party have a different caucus system. The chair of the Labor caucus is elected from among its members and is often a backbencher. The leader of the Liberal Party is usually the one that oversees party meetings. Labor used to have the caucus elect members to the positions of ministers, but now both Liberal and Labor allow for the party leader to appoint ministerial roles. Chamber. Chamber refers to the physical room of, say, the Senate or the House of Representatives. Ministers. They're members of Parliament who have been given a portfolio of importance. So, like the Minister for Defence, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Minister for Indigenous Australians, or Minister for Health. The name and amount of these portfolios can change over time and the people in them can be switched around multiple times within a term. The scope of these portfolios can also grow and shrink. For example, the Minister for Indigenous Australians used to be called the Minister for Indigenous Affairs, and before that, Minister for Families, Community Services and Indigenous Affairs. And before that, Minister for Families, Housing, Community Services and Indigenous Affairs. The Minister of Defence was once called the Minister for Air. Ministers can be from both the Senate or the House of Representatives. If you look at Wikipedia and you go to Minister for Defence, it'll show you historically who has been in that position and also what that position has been called in the past. So that's a really quick and easy way to learn more about it. Thanks Wikipedia. Shadow Minister. Shadow Minister is the equivalent role of a minister but in the opposition. So even though Shadow Minister for Defence sounds really cool, they're actually just, the similar role for formulating party policy regarding their portfolio as the Minister for Defence, but for the party that isn't in power. Backbencher. A backbencher is basically anyone in Parliament that hasn't been given a minister or shadow minister role. This is basically most people in government. They're still necessary though because politics is a numbers game. Bills can be passed or blocked depending on how many people are even present in the room when it's being voted on. Sometimes politicians just aren't present. Crossbencher. The crossbench is politicians that are not part of the major parties. So this means anyone in a minor party like the Greens or One Nation or Independents. They can actually be very important as to whether or not something gets passed, so you may hear about negotiations with the crossbench in the news. Cabinet. This is a collective term for ministers in a government. When you hear the news about reshuffling the cabinet, that means that the Prime Minister is changing the people responsible for certain portfolios. So for example, under Malcolm Turnbull, the Minister for Health was the responsibility of 3 different people: Suzanne Lee, Arthur Sinodinos, and then Greg Hunt, Hansard. The Hansard is the official record of parliamentary debates. Basically, whatever is said during Parliament is written down, except sometimes during the World Wars. They had secret meetings. You can look up records for who said what and when. For example, you can search the historical Hansard debates about whether or not to get involved in a war, or recent discussions about climate change, or even how when the Senate brought up Pokemon Go while debating a bill to do with farming. Yes, that is an actual thing that happened. Now a reference to Pikachu and Charizard is recorded in the annals of Australian political history from now until whenever society collapses and all records are destroyed. Sweet. I love it. I love Pokemon so much. It's good. Anyway, back to the video. Okay, hung parliament. This is an innuendo, okay? To form a working government, a party needs a majority in the House of Representatives of at least one seat. This sometimes doesn't happen. Most of the time this happens, but when no party achieves this, it's called a hung parliament. This happened recently during the 2010 election when Labour and the Coalition got 72 seats each, which is short of the 76 needed to form a majority. The solution to this was that Julia Gillard got the support of Greens MP Adam Bandt and independent MPs Andrew Wilkie, Rob Oakeshott and Tony Windsor. So then Julia Gillard could then form a working majority government. A hung parliament also happened in 1940. This is also where I should point out the term confidence and supply. There's a term for this when a member outside of a political party helps another form of working majority government, and that is confidence and supply. We got this most recently when independent Karen Phelps replaced Malcolm Turnbull's seat and therefore lost the Liberals their one-seat majority temporarily. Back in 2018, coalition. A coalition is when two or more parties join together. Liberals have historically formed a coalition with the Nationals, as they're both conservatives. And also, if they didn't work together, they would almost never form a government. This is usually what people refer to when they say the coalition, as opposed to a coalition. The Liberals have a more urban or city voter base, and the Nationals have a more rural or regional voter base. Though in Queensland they did actually formally merge and are known as the Liberal National Party. And in the Northern Territory there's the Country Liberal Party. So in the end, the coalition is the Liberal Party, the Country Liberal Party, the National Party, and the Liberal National Party. Because the Liberal Party is the larger of all the parties, their leader becomes the Prime Minister when they are in government. And then the agreement is that the leader of the Nationals then becomes the Deputy Prime Minister. Although they are actually different parties that sometimes do have disagreements and even run candidates to compete with each other in the same seat, they do sort of function kind of like one party, so a vote for the Nationals will actually help the Liberals get into power. This is also why you may have seen in the news references to the coalition government instead of just the Liberal government. Legislation. Legislation is a law or a collection of laws. Let's not get the term legislation and bill confused though, even though they're kind of close to each other, I guess. A bill is a proposed law that can be introduced to Parliament either as a government bill, which is by the government, or a private member's bill, which is introduced by any senator or member. So the bill is basically what comes first. Opposition. The opposition party is whichever of the two major parties isn't in power. So while the Liberals are in power, Labour is in opposition and vice versa. This historically hasn't always been the case because the Liberal Party didn't exist until the mid-40s, but because currently Labour and Liberal are the two largest parties by a wide margin, the term usually refers to one or the other. Crossing the floor. This is when a member of a party decides to vote on an issue in a different way than the rest of their party. They physically cross the floor to vote with other parties on an issue. Usually, parties vote uniformly and do this thing called towing the party line, but if the vote is close, someone crossing the floor can be what makes or breaks a bill being passed. Crossing the floor is uncommon, but can happen. Tasmanian Liberal Senator Reg Wright historically crossed the floor 150 times during his 28 years in office from 1950 to 1978. and still holds the record to this day. Imagine disagreeing like that much. Like, hey, thanks for making me a member of your party. Anyway, you're wrong on this, etc. Crossing the floor is discouraged, by the way, and some parties do actually punish or even expel their members if they don't vote with the party. The alternative is a conscious vote. Conscious vote, or a free vote, is where members of a party are free to vote as they choose on an issue. These issues are usually ethical questions like euthanasia or marriage equality, and are statistically actually quite rare. From 1950 to 2007, there were only 32 conscious votes on proposed bills. So there may have been quite a few disgruntled MPs out there who may have either just sucked it up or crossed the floor. Usually, politicians are kept in line by the party whip. Ooh, it flows together really well. The party whip is a position to ensure discipline and help with organisation in the chamber. They don't actually carry around a real whip, though, but that would be cool. Fun fact, there is an actual golden mace that sits in the House of Representatives, and there is a position in the Senate called the Usher of the Black Rod, which is a literal black rod that, you could hit someone with. Just saying. So, bringing in an actual weapon into Parliament wouldn't be that ridiculous, so long as it is a symbolic one, of course. We don't physically hurt our politicians anymore. Maybe the British did in the past. The party whip is like a team manager, so they organise a list of members who wish to speak, assist managers of party business and arrange the order of business on the floor, and count and record votes during a division, and communicate with the whips from the other parties to organise the proceedings of the day. And very importantly, they make sure that all members are actually present to vote as a team. Yes, remarkably, politicians aren't always actually sitting in the chambers all day. If you'd like a video doing a deep dive into the roles, responsibility, and the history of the whip, please comment down below and let me know. So there you have it. Hopefully some of these terms have really helped you understand what is going on in the news or in even some of my other videos, which you should check out now. So thank you very much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe, share this video so other people can learn, and also support me on Patreon. There is a link in the description. There is also a link in the description to a copy of the script so you can see all the citations that I used to make this video. See you next time. Goodbye.